Hello, so you were able to log on.
Yes, I just clicked the link and
Okay, welcome everyone. We will call our meeting, our planning and land use committee meeting, which is noted as a special meeting because of the change from our regular fourth Thursday of the month. And Secretary Madge, if you could call the roll.
yes, it's 6:35 as well, just noting the time. And roll call. The chair is a vacant position. Rosalie Preston,
Present.
Maggie Nixon here, Craig Kusunoki,
Here.
RV Powell,
Here.
Janisha Robinson,
Here.
Rebecca Rodriguez. Rebecca is not here yet. Angela Springs. Angela's not here yet. And Louetta Watson. Lou is not here. Okay.
All right, moving on to general public comment on non-agenda items that are within the neighborhood council's subject matter jurisdiction. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes per speaker. Um,
Do we raise
okay,
our hands or sorry?
yeah, so we'll let our stakeholder BJ Oates.
Hi.
Okay, go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, and I will be attending more meetings. I've been sort of out of pocket because of illness for the past year or so. But and I'm looking at the agenda. Are you guys, or have you already discussed why there's no parking on some of these? Um,
It's, yes, we went over that at our last
are there
committee
minutes?
meeting.
Are there
It's
minutes from the last that I could read?
yes, and it's related to both state law and also the mayor's directive to try to create housing in a quicker manner. But the no parking is definitely coming from a state law that was passed a couple years ago. So, but we'll send you more information. Yeah, and I'll also send you the letter that we discussed at our last committee meeting. And,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was
yeah,
just
so
curious.
that will.
Yeah, I was just curious because when I had my addition done to my house, it's been a while back. They wanted to make sure I had enough parking space. So I'm like, wait a minute, what is this no parking? So I'll read it. I just need to educate myself on it and see what
Yes, it's an issue that's of concern all around the city, but.
okay. Okay, that's really what caught
Okay,
my
thank you.
attention. But I will be, like I said, attending and trying to participate. So
And Rudy, did you have something to say, comment that's on an item not on the agenda?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are in here. I just really briefly wanted to introduce myself, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, my name is Rudy Martinez. I am the new Harbor Gateway Field Deputy for the Office of Councilmember Tim McCosker. Um, I want to offer the opportunity to collaborate with all constituents in the North Gateway and the South Gateway part of the Gateway and offer also my phone number. Right now, it just coming in. I'm working on a lot of cleanups, specifically in the north, off of 114th Place, Main Street, and these are all things that were sent out to me by constituents to my personal, I'm sorry, my work phone number. So my number is, if you have time to write it down or something to take notes with, my phone number is 213-335-0863. And again, I recommend that you send me anything that has to do with encampments, bulky trash items on the street. I'll make sure to get our Clean 15 team on it, or have a Care Plus operation done to get the areas clean. And I'm open to any questions if you have any. Just a little bit about myself. I previously worked as a caseworker in Wilmington. That's part of the 1-5. And before that, I worked for Congresswoman Barragan. So yeah, that's it. If you need my phone number, please let me know.
Rudy,
Okay, and hope that you attend our next Tuesday's full Harbor Gateway North board meeting to introduce yourself and have a brief report of your activities.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm
and,
sure while
and
you're,
Rudy, would you prefer texting or call?
I prefer texting.
Oh, good.
Just because I'm in a lot of meetings all day as I'm transitioning out of the Wilmington community.
Okay.
But again, pictures work, addresses work, and we'll get to work in the Harbor Gateway and make sure that it's nice and clean.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
And just to be, I guess, clear, Rudy, you're taking over for Nicholas Chavez, is that the case?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Nice having you here. Looking forward to partnering with you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Mhm.
Okay, well, just to make sure I'm not bugging you for nothing. So I'm on 116th between San Pedro and Avalon. So would you be my area?
Yes, yes, he is.
Okay, just double checking. Thank you.
And Madge, can you note that Angela joined us about,
I wrote down 6:37. That's what I
yeah,
noted.
okay, thank you.
Okay. I think Kenneth has a question or his hand was.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just wanted Rudy to repeat his phone number again for me.
Yes, absolutely. So my work cell phone number is 213-335-0863. And also I'm working on a grand opening for the Harbor Gateway Enclave office. As of right now, it is open to for appointments. So if you make an appointment, you need to meet with me about anything, let me know, and I will meet you at the Harbor Gateway office at the Enclave.
All right, thanks, Rudy.
And Jose Ochoa, are you one of our stakeholders? Did you have any general public comment, or were you here for an item on the agenda?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm one of the field reps for the Senator Laura Richardson. I just came to sit in the meeting just to hear any comments.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 3. And that's approval of the minutes from the January 23rd committee meeting. Oh. Is there a motion to approve?
I approved the minutes. I second. This is Janisha seconding the motion.
Okay, motion has been moved and seconded. If our secretary could take a roll call vote.
Yes, and I apologize. My dog is barking in the background, so hopefully I don't hear too much, but I'm gonna, Rosalie,
Yes, approve.
Madge Nixon, yes. Craig Kusunoki,
Yes.
RV Powell,
Yes.
Janisha Robinson,
Yes.
Angela Springs,
Abstain, was not there.
Okay, and then Rebecca and Lou are not present. So it passes.
All right, item number 4 is consideration of a draft comment letter on the 2025 Cal Recycle permit review for California Waste Services at 621 West 152nd Street with a recommendation to the HGNNC board. So just before screen sharing the letter,
Yes,
I reviewed the previous permit language that was emailed to us by the local enforcement agency, which is a unit under the Department of Building and Safety. And a good section of the draft permit application, which was prepared for California Waste Services by Tetra Tech. And so the beginning of the letter, which from Tetra Tech, which was dated January 27th, but we did not receive it until I reminded David Thompson, of the local enforcement agency, that he had said he would send it to us. So in the beginning, it says, and just to clarify, this whole permit review process comes under the California or Cal Recycle at the state level. They designate the local enforcement agency, which is under our Department of Building and Safety, as the one to carry out the technical aspects of the review and also for enforcement of the conditions that are present in the permit. So the permit is reviewed every 5 years. However, because 5 years ago in 2020, it was early in the pandemic, they didn't really do a regular review. It seemed that California Waste Services in 2018 had asked for some changes, and they kind of reviewed and approved those, but we were not involved 5 years ago as we were in 2015. And when a lot of the stakeholders were involved at a community meeting. So in any case, in the beginning of this letter from Tetra Tech on behalf of California Waste Services, it says, California Waste Services is proposing to reconfigure equipment to reduce residual waste and increase recoverable recyclable material, as well as reduce the use of front-end loaders by including additional materials, conveyance, separation, and sorting equipment. Proposed equipment reconfiguration includes the extension of the current ADC, which I kind of forget what that is, fines and overs discharge conveyors, a new Bivitech screen, and a 24-inch wide trough idler series of conveyors. It further states in this introduction that the City of Los Angeles Environmental Affairs Department, which is what the local enforcement agency was called in the past, was the lead agency for the CEQA documentation of their revision effort. A mitigated negative declaration was previously certified in November 2008 for the design and operational changes originally proposed for the mechanized recyclable material separation process. And when I was reviewing the dates of the establishment of this business in our neighborhood, they opened in 2000, but they never had to get a conditional use permit. And in 2005 is when they, so they started as a construction and demolition debris processing facility in 2000, but in 2005, they added the inert materials, which are defined as the dirt, the concrete, and sand, things like that. And the inert materials are what is causing the dust issues. So I recall that it was after that change when they added the additional processing of the inert materials that the resident complaints really started. So they're saying that there was a mitigated negative declaration in November 2008. I remember when the owner, Eric Casper, did mention to us that he was going to make some changes, and originally the processing took place more on the west side of the property and impacted Rosecrans Recreational Center's fields and homes along Menlo Avenue. And then when buildings at the east end of the property, closer to the freeway, became available, he told us he was going to move operations there. Our understanding was he was going to be doing the sorting inside those buildings, but actually that isn't what's happening. So going then to the current permit application, it goes into detail about how the materials are delivered and sorted. And it turns out there's a map that possibly we could share the document, but it shows that all of that, the trucks are coming in from Orchard, going north from Redondo Beach Boulevard, and they're circling around his office buildings and dumping on the northern side of the property. And also the mechanized sorting is happening in that area also. And none of that is inside a building. So that's why the dust is just, it's closest to the residential areas along 149. And that's where the normal wind pattern carries the dust over to that area. And so that's why in our comment letter, we're recommending that all operations must take place in enclosed buildings. It does state in the permit that there is he constructed a 10-foot concrete wall with 10 feet of netting above that, but the netting is netting. It's not any kind of solid fabric, so the dust just blows right through it. And also with the sorting, the mechanized sorting, it it creates a tremendous amount of noise, and because it's all outdoors. So I also saw in the permit that when his trucks or the independent operators come in and dump, they just dump it all in this big pile, and that pile is not supposed to be any higher than 14 feet. But we've seen the pile. Sometimes it's 30 feet high. And you could see these excavators rolling up that mountain of debris, supposedly to scoop it up and move it to other parts of the property, which of course creates dust. So Madge, if you could screen share the current version of the comment letter, we can go over it. And
Okay, I'll do that now. Can you see my screen?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so since the last time I added an introduction, so this would be our comment letter regarding the 2025 permit review for California Waste Services. Should probably put there's a facility number through Cal Recycle. I should put that number. California Waste Services, known as abbreviation CWS, began operations for recycling of construction/demolition waste material in the Harbor Gateway North area in 2000, 2 years before the certification of the Harbor Gateway North Neighborhood Council in November 2002. If our council had been in existence at the time the CWS recycling operations began, such operations at this site would never have been approved, even with the land use designation of M2-1VL-O, because of the location near residential and open space uses, which is Rosecrans Recreation Center, and potential impact on Amestoy Elementary School. The school is something that one of the stakeholders pointed out at the community meeting we held on this issue last Thursday. In 2005, CWS was also granted approval for recycling of inert waste, which is defined as dirt, concrete, asphalt, shingles, sand. In the years since our first meetings, and particularly since 2005, we have consistently received complaints about the operations of CWS, including for the generation of concrete and other types of dust which blow over to the homes located to the north on 149th Street, excessive misting spray, noise from operations occurring after hours, noise exceeding permitted decibel levels during the day, rats, insects, and odors from rotting materials. The dust has also impacted the HVAC systems of businesses located in the northern part of the Gateway Crossroads Shopping Center, coated the paving of Orchard Avenue from Redondo Beach Boulevard to the entrance of the CWS facilities, the parking lot of the shopping center, the pavement of Redondo Beach Boulevard from Orchard Avenue to the 110 freeway, and the sidewalks in the area. Many people who live along 149th Street and nearby have complained about the constant dust that falls on their parked vehicles and which eats into the painted surfaces, as do those who work at businesses in the shopping center and park their vehicles in the lot. The Harbor Gateway North Neighborhood Council has reviewed the Cal Recycle permit language from 2020 and proposed language in the 2025 permit application and recommends the following conditions be imposed in the operating permit if California Waste Services is to continue operating at its current location. So one bullet point, require that all operations, especially the tipping area for materials and sorting machines, take place in enclosed ventilated buildings. The current practice of suppressing dust via misters and netting is ineffective and results in the dust blowing onto neighboring properties and the misting water to also blow onto the properties, which at times produces mud. Additionally, the tipping and sorting take place on the north side of the property closest to the most impacted homes. Another bullet point, require testing of incoming loads for asbestos, fiberglass, lead paint, sewage, sludge, industrial waste, medical waste, other hazardous waste, and other non-approved materials by independent inspectors who are not staff of CWS. This is because in the permit, it says that the incoming loads are self-certified to not include those hazardous materials by the people bringing in those trucks. And then if the staff of California Waste Services, who are supposedly trained to identify such waste, if they find them in what's been dumped, then they supposedly contact the people who dumped them and tell them to come and get it. And then they have some area that they take that hazardous waste to for proper disposal later. But okay, another bullet point, require that CWS street sweepers also sweep along 149th Street from Menlo Avenue to Figueroa Street at least once a week to remove the dust that has blown over the netting. So that's in addition to what's currently in their permit. And also the next one, increase the frequency of sweeping up dust from Orchard Avenue between Redondo Beach to 152nd Street and Redondo Beach Boulevard from Vermont Avenue to Figueroa Street from once per week to at least twice per week. So the Redondo Beach Boulevard is in their previous permit language. And we think it should be increased. And I need to add in that they're also supposedly sweeping the median on Redondo Beach Boulevard. Okay. Institute independent methods to determine the amount of debris brought in per weight each day. They're permitted for 1,000 tons, but in their application, the way they're presenting the numbers, you can tell that they're actually doing more, but they're saying that because it's two different types are processed at the same time, therefore it all works out. And that's why they ask for 12 hours of operation per day currently, because they have to process it and be able to be under that 1,000-ton limit per day. Let's see, implement online posting of documentation / paperwork from those bringing materials for recycling. This would be to a website accessible to public review. Right now, it all goes from CWS just to the local enforcement agency, and we don't have access. Another bullet point, require that all CWS trucks and trucks which bring materials for drop-off be zero emissions vehicles within the next 5 years. I noted in the permit application that CWS has started using some electric equipment on site, and I know that Eric Casper did apply to the state to change some of the trucks that he owns to electric, but I don't know that much has really happened. Another bullet point, require filtering of all runoff before it goes into storm drain inlets. That might actually already be being done. Another point, install CCTV time-lapse frames, 15 to 90-second motion noise activated cameras, which are connected to the main CWS office and the office of the local enforcement agency with video recorders and online public access. This would be 5 to 10 cameras at the entrance, dumping areas, sorting, bay bin storage areas, and loading for takeaway, with staff to review, compile, and summarize daily reports. So that's for more transparency as to what goes on there. Because we've seen trucks coming with piles of dirt that are uncovered and big trucks leaving with piles of dirt uncovered, and cameras would catch some of that. Another point, prohibit operations at times when the wind is greater than 3.5 miles per hour or 5 FPS, and RH, relative humidity, is less than 20%, which I guess makes the dust more prevalent. Another point, remove the permit for handling of inert debris, which includes dirt, concrete, asphalt, shingles, and sand, because that's the one that causes so much of the issues. Another point, reduce the hours of operation, acceptance, and processing to end at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, at 2 p.m. on Saturdays, and no hours of operation on Sundays. Interestingly enough, in the CWS application, they actually are proposing that the hours on Saturday be reduced by 1 hour so that they would close at 7 on Saturday instead of 8, and on Sunday at 2 instead of 4. But what we are recommending is stronger and more suited to the community. And another point, prohibit maintenance activities after operating hours, except in the case of a documented emergency, because so often when stakeholders made complaints about the noise after hours, in the current permit, maintenance can take place 24 hours a day. And then that was always given as the reason for the noise, that, oh, we had to do maintenance. But it's hard to understand when you read in the permit what maintenance includes. It just doesn't seem like any of that, like oiling and replacing belts, should involve noise. So, and then the final point, phase out CWS operations completely over the next 10 years. And then I think we should also add another point, which is install fence line monitoring to measure PM 2.5 particles. Because we know that that dust is from a previous study that was done in 2015 that was done by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, that there is silica and fiberglass in that dust. And also just because it's very fine, it is breathable and impacts the health of the impacted residents. I know they do fence line monitoring at refineries and certain other facilities, so any other thoughts or?
I think this looks really good, Rosalie. It captures a lot of the things we've been talking about over the past couple of months. I
And
can't
yeah,
think
it
of
would be,
anything else.
the letter would be directed to David Thompson, who is the program manager for the local enforcement agency program at Department of Building and Safety. And it would be copied to the, our council member, our field deputy, Pamela Thornton, the planning director for Council District 15, Vince Bertoni, the director of planning, Norali Martinez, who is the city planner assigned to the Harbor Gateway Community Plan as it exists. And I was trying to figure out someone in the Office of Racial Justice, Equity, and Transformative Planning. No one's called me back on who that would be, but maybe in the beginning, we should also note that this community, and we could quote from the letter that the previous State Attorney General Javier Becerra stated in the letter regarding the proposed Prologis warehouse back in 2018, that this is environmental justice community. So that probably should be there in the introduction.
And this is not necessarily an opposition letter. It's more of a request or demands for these different kind of requirements or suggestions to be put in place.
Well, to be included in the permit, the new permit. And
Okay.
because David Thompson indicated early in this process that he would be considering our comments, and also, we're encouraging our impacted stakeholders to write their own letters. They could be more simple, but, explaining the impact of the operations on their quality of life. And because he's going to form the final permit language, it sounded like near the end of March. Because and then he submits it, I don't know if he submits it back to CWS, and then it goes to Cal Recycle for their review. And I think the permit gets issued around June of this year. So we're just trying to weigh in, and this is an opportunity to summarize on behalf of our stakeholders what the impact of this facility has been. It's very obvious also that even in the last 2 years, California Waste Services has greatly expanded their operations. you know, those of us who drive out from the south side of Redondo Beach Boulevard onto Redondo Beach Boulevard just see so many more trucks coming and going to the facility. And in the CWS permit application, it stated that see the exact number. I think it's like 80 CWS now leases 80 parking spaces in the shopping center on the east side or the west side of Staples and Goodwill for their workers. And I think some of their trucks even. And that's so that the area on their property that used to have parking spaces for the staff and their trucks now is where all this tipping and dumping is going. And one of the conveyor belts, the sorting machines. So that's why people, again, in the last year or so have really raised the issues. And when you're walking or driving along there on 149th, even the next street over, you could hear, you know, the metallic sound of the sorting.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any more comments. I don't know if anybody else does, but this looks pretty good to me.
Right. I need to, Rosalie, hi, everybody.
Hi.
I have not been to the meetings, for the past, I guess, a couple of meetings. But anyway, I have been, actually in the hospital. So, I was trying to figure out in this report here, you were saying that there have fiber and something else in the dust that is blowing into the neighbors, either the neighbor's home or their cars and stuff. Have it been any effect to the dust blowing, or have it destroyed anything of any neighbor property or anything like that?
Okay, so the fiberglass and the silica from the crushing of concrete, that was documented in a glass plate study that was conducted by South Coast AQMD in 2015. One of our former board members, Betty Hawkins,
Mhm.
was assisting she was the District 4 representative, but at the time she was assisting the District 3 representative, Ray Padwani,
Mhm.
with the issue. And so she was very persistent in calling AQMD, and she finally found out that they could do a glass plate study.
Mhm.
And so they place a glass plate on the CWS property and then on 3 of the backyards of residents along 149th. And then they analyzed the dust that fell on all of them, and it was consistent. So that proved at that time that the dust blowing over to the residents came from that facility, and it included fiberglass and silica. So and one of the residents has said that he can see the fiberglass particles
Mhm.
on his front lawn.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of dogs have gotten ill,
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
and the residents say that the dust that falls on their cars it's not like normal dust, it's heavier, and
Mhm.
it kind of sticks, and it does whatever's in it. It does damage the painted surface.
Mhm.
Um, the problem is that the residents made a lot of complaints in the beginning to AQMD and calls to the local enforcement agency, but because there wasn't much result and it didn't really show up on the record and nothing happened, they got discouraged. So there hasn't been as much reporting, but, and we have thought of trying to get some type of health study done because just anecdotally, a number of the people who lived along that street from the beginning, they developed heart disease, which is something which can be a side effect of breathing the fine particulate matter. It can, damage your, contribute to heart disease as well as many other diseases. But, no health study has been done. It's just anecdotally and about the death of the pets and the, the residents, especially those on 149th on the south side who are closest to the facility, they cannot have their windows open in the summer. They don't let their children play in the backyard because all that, the dust they believe is hazardous. And so it's really a big issue. And the fact that there's never really been a proper conditional use and CEQA study. So that's something we're gonna ask for separately, I think. Also, I noticed that in kind of researching the South Coast AQMD has they create these rules that try to regulate polluting industries, but there are some other construction debris recycling facilities in the South Coast area, but there are no rules regulating them. And I think this is the only one in this type of setting where even though the property is zone industrial, it's surrounded by residential and commercial use. So, it's just inappropriately cited, and especially considering that over the years, the volume of recycling that goes on there and the amount of trucks coming and going has just really increased. So it's, time for a reevaluation.
Okay, so are the neighbors complaining right now about the deaths?
Yeah, and the
Okay.
noise.
Okay.
Some of them do send us, sound recordings and photos. Yeah, recently at 3 a.m, there was just loud noise going on for a period of time so that the resident couldn't sleep. And
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but
So
even in
are
the
they trying to shut
daytime,
them? So what do the neighbors want? They want to shut them down, or these are the demands that they're asking in the letter?
well,
or what?
ideally it would be shut down, but at least to have, if all the operations were moved inside a building, that would really cut down on it's called fugitive dust,
Mm,
the dust that blows off the property, and also it would cut down on the noise.
okay. Hmm. I never actually been by there or through there, but it
Yeah,
seemed like.
anytime you're down in the area, if you drive past on the street in front of the park, 149,
Mm-hmm.
from Vermont to Figueroa, you'll see the netting because the netting's been raised up.
Mm,
But
okay.
if you roll down your window, you'll probably hear the noise from the facility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so are we voting on this letter to be sent?
Yeah, so, well, we would recommend it for the board to adopt as the official comment letter. So is there a motion with making those edits of the mentioning environmental, that it's an environmental justice community, putting in the Cal Recycle facility number, and asking to install another bullet point in install fence line monitoring to measure the PM 2.5 particulate matter.
I'd like to
Okay.
make a motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you, Angela.
So if there's no further discussion or additions, then if the secretary could do the roll call vote.
Yes. So there's a vacant chair position. Rosalie Preston,
Yes,
Imagining Nixon, yes. Let's see. Craig Kusunoki,
Yes.
Harvey Powell,
Yes.
Janisha Robinson.
Yes.
There we go. Thank you. And Angela Springs,
Yes.
Rebecca and Lou are absent. So it passes 6-0.
okay, and then item number 5, update on possibly April 2025 release of the final EIR for the Prologis Vermont and Redondo project, which is a 340,298 square foot warehouse at 15116 to 15216 South Vermont and 747 to 861 West Redondo Beach Boulevard with 24/7 operation. It's, as far as we know, the final environmental impact report will not be ready for release until April or even possibly May. So we're still starting to draft a comment letter so that once the final EIR comes out, we can review it and adjust our letter accordingly. And then there will be the hearing before the city council's PLUM or Planning and Land Use Management Committee, which will be an opportunity for the neighborhood council to speak and also other stakeholders to make comment in advance through email or in person at the beginning of that committee meeting. And number 6, update on the ED project at 1134 East 120th Street, 74 units with no parking. We did invite the architect who came to our previous meeting and presented, but he was asked by our planning director, CD15 planning director, Pamela Thornton, well, he did state at the meeting he was going to revise the exterior design somewhat and the paint colors because it looked like a prison building. And also, I know he's met with our planning director, Pamela Thornton, and she's asked him for the revised plans, which he still has not come up with. I know at the meeting at which he was present, Mr. Schillian, he said that he indicated that they were still working on the funding. So possibly they're having trouble coming up with that. So, but I know that Mr. Carson was concerned about the project, representing the residents in the unincorporated LA County area south of that project area, and also because at the meeting that Mr. Schillian previously attended last fall, he indicated that the existing buildings, which includes the old Taco Pete's and a series of old storefronts along Central Avenue that used to have a dry cleaners, that those buildings would be demolished in December. And I know the council office has received many complaints from the nearby residents about the buildings because now they're just being vandalized, the homeless are living in them, and now it's March and they're still there. So, Mr. Carson, did you have any further comment about that? Yes,
Yeah,
if you, okay.
yeah, yeah. We all certainly the continuing issues of the misuse of the properties by, vagrants, by uh, kids after school going into those buildings and doing what kids do, and uh, just some of the unsightliness has been worked on. I've been in contact with uh, the guy who runs the construction company, and he's had his crew out there cleaning up. But again, we're just not going to have any peace in that area until those buildings are deconstructed. And, I just wondering, you know, I was told that he was acquiring loans to start that process and that they had received the loans. And this is the guy from 3D Construction who said this. Um, and so again, I'm just looking for a solid date for them to get that done. But I have a number of other concerns. One of the things in conversation in my community and is the fact that they're taking out businesses from our community and not bringing any spaces in the development for business to return to the community. And and I know it's like late in the planning stages for that, but we would really love to see, them uh, include in their design some spaces for businesses in this new building. It just, our communities suffer from, opportunities for business, and it was just such a shame to see some businesses that were prospering in those buildings having been taken away. And so again, my big concern, and I'm sorry, I'll try and make this my last comment. My biggest concern is just moving forward when they do begin this process of building on the property. Are they going to be able to secure the property, better than what they have over the past?
I know that our, the planning director, Pamela Thornton, is also concerned about that. She said that she did press Mr. Schillian that once the demolition happened, that it needs to be properly fenced off and, monitored so that encampments don't arise before the construction begins. And just to your point about the, the lack of retail facilities, it's something that we raise in all these new apartment projects. And of all the ones that have been proposed in the last several years, there's only one building that who knows when that's ever going to be built on Imperial and Broadway by
Okay.
Solar Impact, and they're only going to put in one retail unit in that building of many apartments. And because we raise this over and over, because it's a very unresourced area. And one of the reasons they're not putting parking into the buildings is they say, well, the residents can use the bus, but there's no nearby grocery stores. There's nothing within walking distance except the liquor store across Central Avenue. So yeah, it's a real issue for us also.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that that issue has been raised. And yeah, hopefully sometime in the future, people can start, really pushing that issue on these developers, because these guys are going to make lots of money, and all that money is not, going to be in our community. It's just going to be going out of the community. And I don't know how, you expect to have, 50 apartment buildings and nobody driving. That's,
Yeah, right. That was another concern of ours, because we know that out of 74 units,
yeah,
some people are going to have cars and they're going to try to park them in the residential areas, which are already overburdened with vehicles themselves. So, and then
yeah,
it means, then it means that people also from the apartments are walking maybe blocks, to a car, possibly at night. And
yeah.
so,
100%.
yeah, it isn't realistic. And instead they include many bicycle parking spaces, which in one of the buildings, we did manage to get them to reduce the number of bicycle parking spaces and add a few more vehicle parking spaces. But in the end, that building has never been constructed, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
okay, so we'll just,
you guys for your work and
keep working on this issue. So.
working on it, right? All right, thank you.
Okay. And then item 7, all the different reports. So the first one on the oil well issue, Madge, maybe you want to briefly discuss. Before the meeting, we were listening into a Stand LA Zoom meeting, and because it's been more than 2 years ago that the city of LA passed an ordinance that would phase out oil drilling in the city near sensitive uses. Well, actually, I think throughout the city. And nothing's happened. And meanwhile, we still have that active well on 126th Street. So I don't know, Madge, if you wanted to say a little bit, but the meeting helped us understand why our city petroleum administrator has not really helped us on our issue.
Yeah, I took a couple of screenshots and they mentioned that they were going to send out a presentation that we can share with our stakeholders and advocates, or allies as they call them. There was 30 people, seemed well attended. It was my first meeting. I don't know if they've been having these regularly. I guess not, but this is maybe one of the first ones of the year. They also shared in that presentation phone numbers, and they had some calls to action. So there's like a petition and a webinar. And I didn't write down the date of the webinar, but I believe it's later in March, Rosalie?
March 27th, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that would be interesting. I believe it's in the evening, like 5 o'clock or something.
Right, so we can share that with the Planning and Land Use Committee. There is so what happened after 2 years ago is that certain oil companies sued the city to block implementation of that ordinance, and a Superior Court judge last December or fall upheld their appeal. So that ended the city's ability to enforce the ordinance, and it had been all held up in the air. So that's why our city petroleum administrator hasn't really done anything. Waiting for that. But meanwhile, last year, in December also, Governor Newsom signed a bill that allows local jurisdictions to make their own ordinances regarding drilling. So now Stand LA is going to work on a new ordinance. And so apparently the old ordinance has to be vacated and the new ordinance written and instituted. So there is a council file, which I think we'll put on our board meeting agenda for next Tuesday, that would show support for the new ordinance. And then maybe we can get some of our stakeholders to make some calls to the committee, the Energy and Environment Committee, to get it moving along. If everything goes well, then a new ordinance might be ready by fall of this year. But another interesting thing is, because of the suspension of the city's ordinance on the phase out of oil drilling, that ordinance had included a prohibition on using, well, it's essentially fracking, using acidization to dissolve rock to make access to the oil and gas reserves easier. And so that's why all of this corresponds with that well on 126th Street, the Garner J1 well, becoming more active in that period. And the one house that really feels the impact on 129th Street, you know, feeling it because they are doing the fracking again. So, and also at our voter registration event on February 1st, one of the people registering lives on 126, and we had a conversation, and he indicated that whereas in the past, the trucks would come to remove, so from that well, they drill and they put the oil in, the crude oil, into a round storage tank on the property. And it used to be once a month that a truck would come to remove it out of the well and take it away. Now it's every week. So that shows you that they've really intensified. And it's all, I believe they're trying to suck up every last bit they can before a new, you know, some new regulation prevents them from doing that. And then the Weingart Willows, they had their official grand opening on January 30th, and Arby and I attended. Arby, did you want to say anything about it changed a former motel into Project Home Key for formerly homeless individuals.
Yeah, yeah, from what I saw, from the ceremonies in the building and the facility is really, really nice, and the grounds are kept up, and they have, support services for the tenants that's living in there. And also they have security, so it looked like it's a positive, positive, project, what they have to housing, the people. So it was very nice, environment, everything. Get to see the people in, and I didn't get a chance to go inside the room, but they saying it was really accommodating.
Yes, each little former motel room had been remodeled, so there's a little cooking facility and modernized bathroom, heating and cooling. Each unit they're small, but they were very nicely done. And there's some outdoor garden areas that the residents can access. And our contact person with Weingart Foundation, Ben Rosen, who'd been keeping us updated on the progress, he said that anytime if we want to arrange a tour of our planning and land use or other members, they'll be happy to set that up. And then the reopening of the Arco gas station, still not reopened, and now we don't see any trucks in there working. I've called the owner a couple times, but not gotten a response, so there's some new holdup, I guess. On Rexford Industrial, the proposed new warehouse that would face, their offices would face onto Figueroa Street in our neighborhood council area, but the bulk of the building would be in the unincorporated LA County area, and the entrance would be 400 to 422 West Rosecrans. The public hearing date, according to the LA County planner, is April 9th. So we'll try to do some flyering that the weekend before of the residents along Figueroa that might be impacted by any noise, potential noise and traffic. And I'm not sure how they hold their hearings, if they're virtual or in person only. Other ED1 projects. So Ms. Oates, that's what we'll send you our letter that covered our concerns with all these ED1 projects, because there's one on Imperial Highway, 47 units, no parking, 700 West 120th Street, 50 units, no parking. The one we already mentioned at 120th Street and Central. There's also another one north on Central Avenue on the east side at 119th, where there used to be 4 apartments, 1-story apartments, each with their own parking.
Right, I know where those were. Yeah.
Right. So it took them more than a year to evict those 4 tenants. And so they have demolished the buildings. I'm trying to remember. I think it's gonna be a 4-story building. And I think there might be 4 parking spaces, which are probably really meant for the management people
Wow.
who will have a unit, a 2-bedroom unit. But unlike almost all these others, which are all 1-bedrooms, and yet they say they're intended for families, the one at 119th and Central does have a number of 2-bedroom units and as well as 1-bedrooms and studios. But
Mm.
yeah, and no retail on the ground floor. So, and being 4 stories, it's going to impact the homes to the east in the unincorporated LA County area. So when we first got notice of that one, I think it's Oak Road Capital that's building it. They did respond and they said, well, they weren't ready to present. And then the next thing, we kept asking and asking and over a period of months, and then finally we got the it's not letter of determination for these ED1 projects. It's a letter of, starts with a C, confirmation or something that Lou Watson remembers the name, but they were already approved by the city and they'd never presented to us. There's actually from the letter that we received, the architecture and the design looks better than some of these others. So, because that's the other thing, you really, if the buildings aren't designed right, then people aren't going to be happy living there, and there's going to be a lot of turnover. So it doesn't lead to a very stable community.
Right, like that mess on Imperial and Broadway.
Oh, the container building.
Yeah, well, I've seen container buildings go up and they look a lot better. That's a mess up there.
Right. I actually was able to listen in. Maybe a year and a half ago, they presented a webinar. The developers presented a webinar, and the young woman said that they will never do that again because their idea was that, and they didn't reuse existing containers. They actually ordered them to be made in China and shipped over. And so in the end, because there were these difficulties in, cutting holes for the electrical and this and that, they ended up each unit costing, maybe $500,000 or more to construct. And that had been their goal, was to reduce the cost per unit. So she said definitely they would use modular, but it wouldn't be containers. So, and yeah, everyone, I mean, now with at least they're painted and they have nice landscaping, but they still look very cheap. The windows don't look like they seal very well, and you wonder how long it's gonna hold up.
Yeah. Well, I figured I really don't have anything to say because I wasn't involved. So, I should have been, but I wasn't. Not that I would have made a difference, don't get me wrong, but I know you guys look out for us. I've been in some of your meetings in the past pre-COVID, and I know you guys look out for us. So
Well, actually that building is on the north side of Imperial Highway, so that's not in our neighborhood council area. And
okay.
it's in a section
Of
that
course.
we call the orphan area because no neighborhood council represents it. And that's why they've gotten, there's that other building that's even more atrocious that was thrown up, it's kind of a pale pinkish orange building that has all the kind of swap meet type stuff in front of it. It's kind of to the northwest of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
Mm.
that's how things like that could go up, but
The forgotten areas.
yeah, forgotten. So
Okay. But thank
anyway,
you.
yeah,
Yes.
no other,
Do you
no
need my
other-
email address or will it go to everybody that's on the distribution?
you said you already get our emails. Is
Yeah, I
that-
get your what do you call it?
do you get our robocalls?
I'm looking at one now. It comes from Harbor Gateway,
It is an email. Okay.
North Neighborhood Council. Yeah, I've been getting those, yeah, so
Okay, great.
okay.
So yeah, no other update on those other projects. And then I meant to send that out, the number F, the duplexes, because I've been updating, but I know Angela in particular has been interested in this. It's interesting because in the last year or so, or even 2 years, since these ED1 projects have come up, we really haven't seen any proposed duplexes, which is good. Although these ED1 projects are still very impactful on people, but let's see if I can screen share. Let me close some of my documents and
Can I ask if you know what ED1 stands for?
Executive Directive 1, it was the
Oh,
Mayor
okay.
Bass's first directive to speed up the development of housing to address the homeless issue.
Okay.
But the no parking part is due to a state law.
What are
Okay.
you trying to pull up, Rosalie?
I don't see, I'd have to, I don't know if I could quickly send it to you, but let's see, find it
Is it
first.
something that I have? Is it one of our? what's the
No, because you don't have the latest
Okay.
planning on use, demolition. Yeah, some time ago, it used to be that the neighborhood councils got early notification of projects, and that was something that had been early in the years of neighborhood councils. It was the planning department arranged that. But now we get the notices, but there's hardly anything on them. So they took a lot of stuff off. Maybe let me try to email it to you because somehow it's always hard for me to do the screen share anymore.
Okay, no problem. Let me know when you email it and I'll pull it up.
Okay. But one of the few ways now that we learn about projects is through the notice of demolitions. About 4 or 5 years ago, for some reason, the Department of Building and Safety started sending them to us. They only mail them, which is why it's good we have a PO box. And And then you have to look up through the Building and Safety Department or through a link on Zemus to see what's being demolished and what's being proposed. So that's how sometimes we figure out these ED1 projects. When at the beginning of the ED1s, like for the project on Central and 119th, it was on the early notification, but now we don't get them on the early notification. So our letter that we sent, that's what it referred to as the lack of proper notification. Yeah, Mr. Carson, did you have a comment? Okay.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask what the name of that state bill was concerning the parking. I wanted to research that.
Yeah, we put it in our last minutes. Let me look.
Thank you.
And I have that document, Rosalie. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Here. Don't see thing when it's up. There it goes.
So I started highlighting if in yellow if people are building an ADU, and then in red if it was going to be a duplex. In our neighborhood council, right in the beginning, we divided our council into 8 internal districts. So in the northern part and kind of the northeast part along Imperial Highway between Figueroa and just to the east of Central Avenue, District 7 and our districts, internal districts 7 and 8. The area was zoned R2-1 so that 2 buildings could be on a property. And originally, a number of the original residents did build, they had their house in front and then they'd build another unit in the back to rent out or to rent to or to have family members living there. But at the time that we were working on the revision of the Southeast LA Community Plan that covered those areas, we asked that protections be placed on those R2 properties. We really wanted them downzoned. But that was at the time when the state had just passed a law or was passing a law that would not allow cities to downzone because they wanted more housing. So, and unfortunately, the developers and the really low-cost developers had realized that those R2-1 properties were ideal to purchase as the older residents died and, if the family members didn't want to live there, they sold to these all cash people and who turn out to be kind of like fronts for these developers. And so then they tear down the existing buildings and then put up a duplex, sometimes they're side by side, sometimes it's, well, I think the new kind, they're one door when you enter, it goes to the ground floor apartment, and the other door goes upstairs to the other unit, which is above. And then some of them would build, they'd manage to fit two of them, two duplexes on a lot, and then that means there's four. So it really turns a low density residential neighborhood into, you know, a multifamily neighborhood. And these are old streets that were developed in the 20s and 30s. So the width of the streets is very narrow. So there's the whole issue of parking and driving on those streets. And it just makes the quality of life for the remaining homeowners very difficult. So,
Yeah, I could attest to that.
oh, you're on a street like
Yeah,
that?
they built, like you said, they they took one house and put, for lack of a better term, 4 units on it.
And on Angela's block, because her block is considered to be near
Oh,
the Green Line or the Sea Line station on Avalon, they built some buildings. They started building them. Well, originally, the original duplexes that you see like along Main Street in South LA, you know, they said they were intended for families, larger families, and so they were like 3 or 4 bedrooms with maybe 2 bathrooms. But some of these newer ones were 5 bedrooms with 5 bathrooms. So, and they became boarding houses, really, and they, you know, different, or board and care, and like very low cost for mentally ill people, where someone, after they were purchased and I mean, after they were built, then they would be sold to these businesses that would own multiples in different places, and like a van would drive around to drop off people's medications, and just, you know, very poor quality of life for the residents.
yeah, they've been trying to get my lot forever. I have the largest lot in our neighborhood. It's not gonna happen. Second largest.
Yeah. But anyway, but we haven't seen those notices
Could I
lately.
ask,
So,
is this a form that we could pull up somewhere?
no, but when I email you the ED1 letter, I'll email you this latest chart.
Thanks. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet now.
So I think you're in our District 8.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so I did it. First, it's the numbered streets, and then it's the streets with names alphabetically, and they're by district.
Okay.
So that, yeah, and so now we're working on the update of our Harbor Gateway Community Plan, which is from Artesia up to 120th on the south side. And when we looked at the zoning of parcels, we saw that there were some areas that were zoned R2-1 and mainly had single-family homes on, or maybe some additional units, but they were 1 or 2 stories. And we were worried that in the future, a developer would buy one of those and put up a duplex. So, but because you cannot downzone due to state law, because of the need for more housing, therefore, hopefully the planning department put some other restrictions so that even if they built a duplex, it would have to kind of blend in with the existing buildings. But
Yeah, I may have to talk to Newsom. We need to do something about that parking, because if they required parking, they couldn't build as much.
Right, and it would be, yeah, there'd be fewer units, but they could have bigger units too, because these little tiny one bedrooms, just looking ahead to the future, it would make it better for the new residents and also the existing neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And Mr. Carson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I still haven't seen that state bill on this
Right,
document.
I realized it's in a letter, so I'm looking for the letter.
Okay.
It's in the ED1 letter.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
you can certainly mail that to me. I'd like to have this document as well, just to be
Okay,
able to share with
right.
my organization, let them see
Uh,
how much development is going on around our areas and tell you.
Yeah, now I can't even see it in the CD1 letter, but I'll find it. I know it's written down somewhere. It passed a couple years ago, but we've only just kind of now are seeing the impact of it.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Parking. Okay. Okay, so and then on the Harbor Gateway Community Plan update, we really haven't heard anything lately. We're assuming it will move to the Plum Committee in a few months. And then any other planning and land use issues that anyone is aware of? Okay, if there's nothing else, then thank everyone for attending and, so the next meeting, we had been holding our meetings on the fourth Thursday of the month, but this month in March, we've already held an early March meeting and I'm gonna be out of town for March 27th. And I believe, so do we want to try the first Tuesday again of April? Does that work? Oh, no, I won't be back then either.
Yeah.
Is anybody opposed to Wednesdays?
Not opposed, it just depends on which one. Personally, the Tuesdays work better for me. I have a conflict on that last Thursday or fourth Thursday of the month going forward.
So do I.
Okay.
So maybe first Tuesday. I could do
Right.
the first
Or,
Tuesday.
yeah, or maybe in
Wednesdays are best for
April.
me.
Yeah. Maybe in what about the third Tuesday of April?
What's that date, Rosalie?
Let me check.
Is it the 15th, tax day? Yeah, if it's April 15th, that day does work for me. We have the general meeting on the 8th and then also the larger meeting on the 22nd.
So Tuesday, April 15th, or Wednesday, April 16th.
Yeah, that Wednesday, so I have a conflict on the 3rd Wednesdays of the month, so that Wednesday I
Okay.
couldn't do.
So
But
why
if
don't we say the 15th for April and,
Then going forward, maybe switch to like the second Tuesday.
the first
First,
Tuesday,
sorry.
yeah.
So that would be May 6th.
Because you said you have a conflict on the 4th.
The 4th Thursday, yeah, it sounds like
Mm.
Janisha does too.
Okay,
Yeah, first Tuesday was better than fourth Thursday for me.
Yeah, okay.
okay. Okay, so next meeting, Tuesday, April 15th at 6:30 by Zoom.
I don't know if Rudy had a question. Rudy had their hand up.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, it sounds like the meeting's adjourning soon. My laptop's dying, so I was just wanted to make sure I said goodbye to everybody.
Okay, yeah, I think we can wrap up, Rosalie.
Yes, thanks for all for attending, and we'll meet again on Tuesday, April 15th.
Right, good night, thank you.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.